welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis, and today I'm going to give you an honest review of the new Emax Babyhawk. It is their brushless micro that they've released. There's a ton of brushless micros coming out right now, and everybody's battling to get the best brushless micro out there. This might be one of the top 5 brushless micros out there on the market, especially for the attractive price of $99 as I'm making this video. The one you're looking at right here is a pre-release version, and I beat this one up out in the field. I gave it a real drone camps test. I tried to fly through tree gaps. I hit trees with it. I crashed on the middle of the street in the concrete. I broke things on it. I actually blacked out my camera and had to put a new camera on there, which I have tons of those cameras in my shop anyway, so no big deal. You'll be a lot more careful with yours than I am mine. But I wanted to find out what this thing was made of for you guys, so I put it to the test. No, I was flying mine and something happened. A motor flew off of it and I couldn't figure out why, and I was talking to Ferrari and he had the same issue with his. Emax sent him and I one, and I ended up having to take my prop guards off because the screws they put in the bottom of the motors were too short. They were maybe a ½ millimeter going into the motors, so they weren't Loctited and they just fell right out. So now I'm missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 motor bolts, but that's okay. I have enough. I took these off and I Loctited everything. So if you get one of these, make sure, for God's sake, that you Loctite your bolts on there. Very, very important, because your bolts will fly off. Now, the Emax flight controller in here is a proprietary flight controller. It's the female Micro F3 flight controller. It has a new CPU in it that makes it super, super responsive and fast and agile. For micro brushless racing, it's going to be a great performer. Out in the field, when I was doing freestyle maneuvers, it was really responsive and really snappy. And it seems like it floats a lot. I mean, the micros are great because when you're 50 feet up in the air, it feels like you're 200 feet up. It's really cool. So you have tons of hang time and you have tons of time to respond to any types of situations because it's so small. And it really does fly on 2S. You get 2S batteries on it. It flies great on 2S. Tons of punch out. These props are designed to give you kind of a maximum thrust and punch out. There are tri-props on here with 4 bolts on top. And I believe the number on those props, let's see if I can see it here, TS2345 tri-blades. And I believe those are Emax proprietary props, so you have to get those specifically for your Babyhawk. I'd like to see some different colors coming out with these too, maybe some black ones as well. Now, one other area that kind of concerned me about this Babyhawk was the fact that this is an all plastic frame and it's a plastic tower that the camera sits in, and that concerned me. My first concern was the tower might break right here where the arms stick up. There's 2 arms that come up right here, but this held up really, really well. I crashed it in the middle of the street. It cartwheeled. The battery flew off. It was a really good crash, and I actually put dents on each end because at that time when I crashed, I didn't have any prop guards on it. So the motors took the full brunt of the crash right underneath each motor, and I was afraid that there would be a stress point right here because this is plastic. I thought this heavy motor, when it hit, would bend back and just shear this right here. And that was my main concern, but crashing on the middle of the street, it didn't happen. So that was really cool that this whole frame held up. And Emax was pretty smart by making this design a really attractive looking design for a plastic frame. It's amazing how much hype is surrounding the Babyhawk, even though it's a plastic frame, because everyone loves carbon fiber right now. Carbon fiber is going crazy. So this is pretty durable for a plastic frame, and I think it provides a lot of protection the way they have it designed for the flight controller ESC inside. Now let's talk about that ESC stack in there. The ESC is a 6 amp. It's programmable in BioHeli Suite, which is cool. That's what we want. But most of all, it's the Bullet series. Those Bullet ESCs are about the size of your fingernail, and they can run up to 30 amps. So they're super tiny and very, very efficient. And they're running D-Shot as well in there. So very cool that they have D-Shot. Now, the all-in-one camera, I did actually burn mine out. As I was saying, I've replaced it. I have a ton of these around my shop, but The cool thing is that it's pretty standard camera bay, so you can get an all-in-one camera and pop a new one back in there. It just plugs right in on the bottom right here, so no big deal. I had tons of those laying around. Now, the resolution on the camera I felt like could be a little higher. It's actually 520 TVL CMOS camera, so I was kind of hoping for like a 600 to 700 TVL on this Babyhawk, but you know what? It's a decent camera, and I got good color out of it. So, and it's also running 40 channels, 5.8, and you get 25 milliwatt to 200 milliwatt. So 200 milliwatt on an all-in-one camera is awesome. And it doesn't come with this clover leaf on top of it. This is my replacement camera, like I was saying. The one that you get with this one comes with a singular antenna on there, like a monopole type antenna. So that's pretty cool as well, or what we call a dipole antenna. Now the weight on this is about 60.3 grams, so that is pretty competitive in the range of 90 millimeter micros. The Mosquito 70 is a little lighter, but it's also quite a bit smaller. Now the motors on here, those are actually 1104 5250s, 5250 kVs. They're pretty punchy for this setup. I really felt like I had plenty of punch and plenty of power with this 2S setup. I mean, this thing would probably be amazing on 3S if you wanted to upgrade. The way it is, out of the box, stock, this is probably one of the top brushless quads that I've flown this year. And I don't say that about many of the brushless quads, because I've had quite a few duds come through my door in this revolution of micro quads. The companies are scrambling to make the best ARF, the best RTF. So the PMP version of this is $99, but it doesn't come with the receiver, so you have to add your own receiver right on top of the flight controller. Now I'm using the FR Sky receiver on here, and it's doing really nice. I have a pretty decent range out of this. This is the latest and greatest micro FR Sky receiver compatible with my Tyrannus Plus. It was very easy to bind up. If you get one of these, I want you to know that this little bind button on the back right here, if you can just get this to focus for a second, right there, it's a little gold button. It is like the tiniest bind button in the history of man. It is super small, and you can barely feel it go down when you press it with your fingernail, but it isn't hard to bind up, just like the X4R. It's pretty cut and dry when you go to bind it. So these props are 2.3 inches, and they do perform quite well for this setup. I feel like the motors are beefy enough and the props are beefy enough to give this micro quite a bit of punch, that punch that you're looking for, because sometimes when you get a micro and you go to punch out, you're really not impressed with how fast it punches out. You're kind of waiting for the power to happen, and sometimes it just never happens. So that's kind of a bummer on some of the micros, but I don't feel that way when I'm flying this one. It actually has quite a bit of punch out. I was pretty impressed by that. Now it does have more punch out than something like the Mosquito 70. Mosquito 70 does have quite a bit smaller props and smaller motors. It has 1102s, 10,000 kVs on this one. I did have a ton of fun with this one. It was fun because I was able to shoot really small gaps and have a lot of fun playing around with freestyle on it. Now there's some things on this one that this one's missing. I feel like this one doesn't have a beeper, which is kind of a bummer. And I was telling Emax about that. I really would like to have a beeper on this because you have a pretty good range with this FR Sky receiver on here, and I can go way out into the field. And I crashed quite a few times, and I had to walk around and look for this thing in the grass. So I would like to see that they add a beeper on the release version. That would be great if they could stuff a micro one in there somewhere for you guys. It would make this a lot easier to fly and find in high grass. If you crash in high grass, it's going to be really hard to find it. But this one, the Furious, is way more expensive, $250 for this one. Like I said, it does come with a beeper. It's sitting right up front right here. So that's kind of nice. Now, the other pitfall of this, I feel like, I wish it had OSD. There's no OSD on this one, and I just got one in the shop yesterday that I'm super excited about, that I'm going to show on the channel soon. It has everything on there. It has the beeper, it has an overlay, it has an OSD on there for your on-screen display, and it's not missing anything. But we'll see how that one performs as compared to this one. So starting to get a lot of these micros in, and we'll do some comparisons for you. So if you're looking to get one, you can get the right one the first time. Now the Babyhawk is compatible with different radios. It's compatible with FR Sky radios. It's compatible with the JR radios. It's compatible with the Fly Sky radios and the Spectrum users. It's also compatible with. So you can run it PWM, you can run it PPM, and you can also run it S-Bus, which I'm doing. This little micro FR Sky S-Bus set up on D16 inside my radio. So just for fun in this video, I wanted to compare some of the different micros out there that are really popular right now. This one is coming, and this one is brand new on the market, as well as the Babyhawk. This is the pre-release, like I was saying, and the Mosquito 70 is just out, and one of the crowd favorites is the Aurora 90. I love this frame, and I love these low rider cameras, how they have on the bottom mounted there, and they're not high up to get hit when you crash. Now, like I said, on the Babyhawk, I did take out my camera and I had to put a new camera on there, but that was because I was kind of bashing around with it to see how durable it is. And so far, it's probably one of the most durable ones that I have. This one I broke probably on the 5th flight. I broke a motor, and so I have 4 replacement motors sitting over to the side that GearBest sent me. So I'm going to put some brand new motors on there, actually better motors than what it came with, so I'm kind of excited about that. But size-wise, look at the size difference between, say, like the Mosquito 70 and the Babyhawk. They're pretty close in size. I mean, 20 millimeters. And this one has ESCs that are up inside the arms under here. You can see them up inside these vents. And these don't have vents. So these ESCs are inside, and they're cased inside here. So we'll see how those do in the warmer months in the summer coming up. Now I'll hold up the Aurora 90 for you. This one over here, strangely similar to something, I believe, like a Tomo quad. Looks very similar to one of his, this frame. But this one also has that sort of lowrider cam in the front, which I like, because it's a little more protected in crashes. But from the very bottom, these are pretty close in size. And then the Aurora 90, let's look at the bottom of that one. This one's got a lot of board exposed on the bottom of it, but your battery does ride down here, so I've got my scale all set up. Let's go ahead and weigh the Babyhawk. First we'll weigh it without the prop guards on there and see what we get. 64 grams altogether. Let's add a battery on there. So we're looking at 84 grams with the battery without prop guards. Now we'll add the prop guards on there. The weight alone with the prop guards and no battery be 70 grams. Then we'll add the battery on there and see what we get. Get a total takeoff weight of 92 grams. Not too bad with prop guards and everything. Let's move that to the side. The next one we'll weigh is the AR Fun, also known as the Aurora 90, the new brushless quad coming out. This one's 57 grams without the battery. Now with the 2S battery, same size, 2S 350, 77 grams total takeoff weight. And we'll do the Aurora 90 by itself with the props on, 46 grams. And let's see, with the battery, we're looking at 66 grams total takeoff weight for the Aurora 90. Now let's do the Mosquito 70 by itself, no battery, 44 grams. With the battery, total takeoff weight is 64 grams, so they're all relatively close in size. The Babyhawk is the heavier of the bunch, but that's not a big deal when we get so small, because the performance of it is still really high. So the USB port is located just under the receiver in the very back here, and be careful when you plug yours in. Take your props off when you're in beta flight. If you do any motor testing to make sure this is set up right, your motor directions are right, take the props off, because these props will hit the USB cable in the back. That's one bummer about this, but not a big deal, because a lot of times I always tell people to take the props off when you're working on your quads inside, because they can fly up and hit you. A friend of mine just really had a nasty injury with his finger. So let's go ahead and connect here and check the orientations. Everything looks good here. Left, right, forward, and back. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the ports. And they have the ports set up to UART1 here and serial RX on UART3. So you can bind up your S-Bus Tyrannus FR Sky receiver. Let's go down here and serial based receiver spec sat S-Bus. S-Bus down here as well. And let's see the very bottom. I turned off black box. They do have air mode. It says permanently enable air mode on there, so I did leave that on. My failsafe is always set to drop, which is what they have. And for the PID tuning, check this out. Hopefully you can see this here. They do have the super rates set to 82, 82, and 76. So surprisingly, the roll rate was great. It rolled really fast and was really responsive for freestyle maneuvers. I think for racing, you could probably tone that down a little bit if you wanted to, but this thing is super stable if you're going to use it for racing as well. Now let's check out the receiver. Everything was set up in here correctly, and this is how I have my modes. For the arm switch, I'm on aux 3, and I could probably move that over just a little bit. We'll save that. Angle mode, first on my switch. Second switch down is horizon. Third switch is acro. And we'll go down to the CLI here, and I'll type in version for you to show you what version's on here. And it has SP Racing F3 Evo 3.0.1, October 18th, 2016. I can bring that up to the latest and greatest version. That's not the newest version on there, but it works for what I have on there right now. And sometimes if it's not broke, I don't fix it. I just fly it. So that's about it for the Betaflight setup. Let's go ahead and go outside and do some flying with the Babyhawk.